The Supreme Court did something today that happens more often than you might think. It ruled unanimously on two pretty big cases. And high-profile liberal justices wrote the opinions. For details, I want to turn to Jan Crawford, who joins us from the Supreme Court, and Camilo Montoya-Galvez, who joins us from New York with details on the president's travel ban. Jan, I want to start with you. Catch us up on this Ohio ruling about a woman who claimed because she was straight, she was discriminated in an employment context.
That's right, Major. Marlene Ames, she had worked 30 years at the Ohio Department of Youth Services. She put in for a promotion, and then instead of getting the promotion, she got passed over, and then she actually got demoted, and two gay employees took those spots. So that's the story. I mean, that's how it started. She thought that amounted to discrimination. Now, we went out to Akron, Ohio, and sat down with her back in February before the court heard arguments. Let's listen to her and see how she describes it.
They put a 25-year-old man with less than 3 years of service in our agency to do my job that I had successfully done for over 5 years.
That amounted to discrimination because you believe he got the job because he was gay and you're straight.
Correct. It was humiliating going to work every day.
Humiliating.
Yes.
They cut your salary almost in half.
Yes, $40,000. So, of course, I went into a panic over that.
Now, lower courts threw out her lawsuit. They said because she was a member of a majority group, a straight woman, she had to jump through this extra hoop before she could even get her day in court. And today, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that that was wrong. They said that federal anti-discrimination law doesn't require that extra burden on straight people, on white people. In a unanimous opinion by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the justices said basically discrimination is discrimination, whether you're white, black, gay, or straight. There's no different rules for getting your day in court. So, Major, this means that now she can try to win. Like, she'll get to actually try to prove her lawsuit. But it also means that this will affect at least 20 other states and the District of Columbia. Courts followed the same rules in those states. So this will kind of make the entire country now have the same rules for everyone.
And, Jan, also an important ruling on gun liability.
Major, this one was also unanimous, which I think is important to point out because we think of this court as so deeply divided and at each other's throats all the time. The justices today rejecting arguments by Mexico in a $10 billion lawsuit that gun manufacturers should be held liable for cartel violence in Mexico. A federal appeals court actually agreed with Mexico, said that they could try to prove that case in a trial. But the justices today said that a 2005 law that Congress passed, which shields gun makers from liability if their products harm other people, that law just simply doesn't allow this kind of case. And if you think it should, try to get Congress to change the law. But they rejected that, reversed the appeals court. Mexico will not be able to go forward with this lawsuit. A big victory for gun makers, obviously.
Jen, thank you very much. I'm going to turn now to Camilo Montoya-Galvez in New York. Camilo, catch our audience up on the Trump travel ban, what it means, who it affects, and other possible consequences, including reaction.
Hi, Major. This is the latest step taken by the Trump administration to curtail and restrict legal immigration to the U.S., this time on national security grounds. This action by President Trump amounts to a full immigration and travel ban on 12 countries, most of them in Africa and Asia, but that list also includes Haiti here in the Western Hemisphere, and another 7 countries, most of them in Africa and Asia as well, but it also includes Cuba and Venezuela, face partial bans on travel and immigration to the U.S. And President Trump is justifying this restrictive measure on the grounds that these countries, Major, do not have sufficient vetting policies and do not share sufficient information to the U.S. government to screen their nationals coming into the U.S., and that some of them do not cooperate in terms of accepting U.S. deportations. And while the Trump administration, the first term around, faced a lot of legal challenges, Major, when it came to travel bans issued by the president back in 2017 and 2018. This time around, the Trump administration is confident that this will pass legal muster because in 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court held that the president has sweeping and broad powers to restrict the entry of foreigners on national security grounds.
And Camilo, this was done in the context of a terror attack in Boulder, Colorado this weekend. The person arrested and now charged. was from Egypt,
That's
overstayed
right.
a visa, but Egypt is not on this list.
Egypt is not on the list, but Egypt is included in one provision of the proclamation, and that part of the proclamation, Major, instructs the Department of Homeland Security and other agencies to review Egypt's vetting policies to determine if any other immigration restrictions on that country are warranted.
And Jan, back to you at the Supreme Court. What else are we awaiting this term?
Well, you know how I said all these decisions today were unanimous, Major? I don't think we're going to get a lot of unanimous decisions going forward. The most contentious cases still remain. Those divide the justices like they divided the lower courts, including a major ruling on whether states can ban medical transition for children who identify as transgender. I think that's a big one. Another one on whether or not parents can opt out of story time, basically, for their elementary school age kids if it has books with lesbian or gay or transgender themes or characters. That's a big religion case. And then, of course, we have the Trump case. The first case they've taken up in this new Trump administration, arguments they held last month on whether or not the nationwide injunctions that were handed down in the birthright citizenship challenges, whether those nationwide injunctions exceed a judge's power. I mean, those are just a few, Major, but it is going to be quite a lot, and I think these will divide these justices pretty significantly.
On a very heavy news day, Jan Crawford at the Supreme Court, Camilo Montoya-Galvez in New York. Thank you very much for giving us all that perspective and information.